So, you know how Bitcoin's price is like a total roller coaster, right? One minute it's soaring to the moon, and the next it feels like it's in an absolute free fall. Well, today we're going to break down why one of its biggest champions, Michael Saylor, thinks the last big crash wasn't some kind of disaster, but actually a massive opportunity. I mean, cast your mind back to late 2021. It feels like a lifetime ago, but Bitcoin was on top of the world. It hit this incredible peak of nearly $69,000. But, the party didn't last. By January of 2022, the whole market had just taken a complete nosedive, with the price crashing all the way down to around $34,000.
Yeah, that is a 50% drop in just a couple of months. Think about that. That is a brutal, brutal haircut for anyone who happened to buy in near the top.
So what on earth happened? What could possibly trigger such a huge and, honestly, such a rapid sell-off? Was it just one thing, or was it like a perfect storm of a bunch of different factors all hitting at once?
Well, if you ask Michael Saylor, and he's one of the biggest corporate investors in Bitcoin, so his opinion carries some weight. He says the answer really boils down to two immediate factors that just poured gasoline on the fire.
First up, you've got this whole mess of regulatory uncertainty. Governments all over the world are still trying to figure out what to do with crypto. Is it a security? Is it an asset? How are we supposed to tax this stuff? And all that confusion, it just makes the big institutional investors and even just regular folks super hesitant to jump in.
Okay, and the second reason, oh man, this is a big one. This is a massive driver of the crazy volatility we see. It's the widespread use of something called leverage trading. It's an incredibly powerful tool, but boy is it risky.
So what in the world is leverage? Well, to put it simply, it's basically trading with borrowed money. It lets you control a much, much bigger position than you could with just your own cash. And yeah, that can amplify your profits like crazy, but, and this is the important part, it can amplify your losses just as fast.
And this slide right here shows you just how dangerous it can be. Okay, let's just walk through it. Say you start with $5,000. You then use 20x leverage, so now you're controlling a $100,000 position. Feels pretty powerful, right? But look what happens next. The price just dips by a tiny 5%. That means your position loses $5,000, and just like that, your entire initial investment is gone. Poof, wiped out, instantly. Now imagine that happening to thousands of traders all at once. That's how a small dip suddenly turns into a catastrophic flash crash.
So you hear all that, the fear, the forced selling. It sounds like a complete disaster, right? The end of the world for Bitcoin. But here's where the story takes a turn. Michael Saylor argues that this crash wasn't the end of the story. In fact, he sees it as exactly the opposite. A massive, massive opportunity.
From his perspective, for all those big financial institutions, the ones that were cautiously sitting on the sidelines just watching, this 50% drop wasn't a crisis. No way. It was a sale. It was the 50% off discount they had been waiting for to finally get into the game.
I mean, get this. Take the billionaire investor Bill Miller. He went out and revealed that he personally put half of his entire portfolio into Bitcoin. Half! But then, what's his advice to new investors? Oh, just start with 1%. It's just a classic case of do as I say, not as I do.
And that kind of move, from a seasoned pro like Miller, it kind of hints that there's a deeper conviction going on here, right? To really get where they're coming from, we need to zoom out from the crazy daily price charts and look at the much bigger global economic picture.
Officially, you'll see numbers like this. The Consumer Price Index, the CPI, shows inflation at around 7%. But come on, we all feel it every single time we go to the grocery store or fill up the car. The real cost of just living is going up much, much faster than that.
And this isn't just happening in the US. This is a global thing. Saylor's argument is that traditional, government-issued currencies, fiat money, are fundamentally broken. You see currencies literally collapsing in places like Turkey and Argentina. But the truth is, all of these currencies are losing their buying power over time. And that is forcing people everywhere to run away from cash and find somewhere else to preserve their wealth.
Now look, if you're a wealthy investor in a developed country, you can protect yourself. You can buy stocks, get into the S&P 500, that kind of thing. But here's the kicker. Saylor claims that a staggering 75% of the world's population is basically locked out of these top-tier assets. They just can't get access.
And this is the absolute core of his whole thesis. This is where he believes Bitcoin offers a revolutionary solution. He sees it as this decentralized, globally accessible asset that anyone
anyone with an internet connection can use to protect their savings from that slow, silent killer of inflation.
So, okay, given all this, the crazy volatility, the complexity, the huge global stakes, what is Saylor's ultimate advice for anyone who's new to this space? You know, for someone who's maybe feeling a little intrigued, but also pretty intimidated by the whole thing.
Well, his advice is actually incredibly simple and really powerful. He doesn't say, go buy Bitcoin. Not at all. He says, learn. He hammers home the point that the single biggest risk you can take isn't price volatility, it's investing your hard-earned money into something you don't truly understand. So at the end of the day, it really all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? Is Bitcoin just a massive speculative financial bubble waiting to pop? Or is it a fundamental shift in the future of money itself? Where you land on that question, well, that's going to determine how you see everything else in this space.